Hello, my lovelies. I'm Jenny O, the author with no last name, and I'm also a dev editor, fashion designer, and game dev. And today I want to talk about the branding of Corepunk, a top-down, open-world, mixed-genre MMORPG being made by Artificial Core. Now, out of all the games I've been looking at thus far, I really do think outside of Palia, Corepunk has given what the developers have told us has all the markers to be a really fun and really successful game. It has a lot of things going for it, a combination of nostalgia with the top-down camera and the promise of multiple types of plays for multiple types of players, story questing content, and a development team that seemed willing to listen to feedback, especially on gender locking. They've also expressed this desire they want to put out a good game they can realistically deliver. And what they've shown us looks really, really good. They are adding in a jump mechanic, there's going to be farming and skill trees and lots of different environments, many ways to customize your character so you can be the profession and class you want to be, and what sounds like optional PvP. I genuinely think that this game is offering enough nostalgia to get players of older top-down RTS games and those who love Dota 2, and it will have enough new or newer mechanics to bring that RTS-style game into the here and now. And I'm sure you're hearing a but. The brand itself is risky on a couple of levels. Visual and marketing. I really don't want to go over the elements of a brand here because the target audience is actually your fairly typical target audience, and the fantasy tagline / theme is pretty much non-existent in their marketing. Today, I really want to delve into what I personally perceive as brand risk. What is risk? As a verb, according to Oxford Languages, risk is to expose someone or something to danger, harm, or loss. We are focusing on the harm or loss aspect of Corepunk's visual brand. By that I mean, Corepunk's visual brand is legally risky. When I first saw anything about Corepunk, I think it was a YouTube thumbnail for a trailer or gameplay, and the first thought I had was, Warcraft and Starcraft had a baby. The top-down camera, the somewhat cartoony visual style, the races, especially the orc and demon races, but also the dwarf-looking race, and the armor, all recalled Warcraft and Starcraft. I knew it couldn't be a Blizzard game. Blizzard has been way too focused on Overwatch to try and make a new IP using some of their old IP's game mechanics, and the camera in a new updated engine. Blizzard has been trying to revive their own RTS IP and failing miserably, plus lawsuits. So I knew this wasn't Activision Blizzard, and as a brand person, alarm bells started going off like klaxons in my mind. Now, legally, Activision Blizzard can't trademark or patent certain things, or at least as far as I know, they haven't. Their relationship with things like Dota and Dota 2 have been easygoing rather than adversarial. They can't trademark or patent a cartoony visual style. They can't trademark or patent oversized armor in games. They can't even trademark or patent things like orcs, elves, demons, etc. They just can't because those are super broad strokes. The only thing they can do is trademark their very specific characters. This is why we can have all these fantasy games with the same types of fantasy races and general ideas, because they aren't legally copyrightable. They're ideas, not specific stories. Now, where we start hitting the legally liable stage is if Corepunk could be confused with a Blizzard property. Then we start hitting into trademark infringement, and this goes beyond logos and into the actual character designs. because Blizzard has trademarked their character designs to make toys. Sitting here thinking, this looks like StarCraft and Warcraft had a baby, makes me very uneasy. Because despite the lawsuits, despite Bobby Kotick being subpoenaed by the SEC, despite legal counsel leaving, and everything going on at Activision Blizzard, there is no telling what way, as a company who has to defend their IP, what way they're going to jump. They could ignore Corepunk, or they could sue Corepunk. Now, they can't get them on the name or the logo because the name and the logo are distinctly different from Warcraft and World of Warcraft. So, if say you had these as licensed books side by side, you would be able to tell the difference in the logos and the titles. Where the confusion can happen is in the orcs, and the demons, and the dwarf-looking mercenary. Purple elves and purple elves with horns is not a huge difference. The same goes for the orcs. The difference is in the armor, mostly. When they showed off character customization here with the orcs, they do have different orc skin colors with some oranges and reddish browns among the greens. And I hope the same can be said for the pyromancer demons, but they didn't show it. They have an aqua color for the orcs, which they didn't show until the end, and I'm totally down with that aqua color. If I was to play this orc character, that is the color I would choose, because I am completely and utterly predictable. If I can be aqua or purple, yep, that's me. So this leads into where their marketing decisions have been risky. If they have these different skin colors and they are deliberately using the green and purple for the marketing in order to make that nostalgic Warcraft and StarCraft-esque armor callback, then they are choosing to indulge in this dangerous game with Activision Blizzard. This is not something I would choose to do, and Activision Blizzard may just be waiting to see where they take the story with Corepunk before going, okay, no, cease and desist. Activision Blizzard, despite all their problems, can afford to wait. To a small degree. The reason I would avoid doing something this blatantly obvious as an inspiration is because I'm a risk-averse person who doesn't like poking beehives, and poking Activision is poking a beehive. I applaud the chutzpah to go ahead with this. The concept of mixing a dark fantasy with sci-fi cyberpunk is a really cool idea. It's just a little too blatantly Warcraft and StarCraft. I mean, this could even go back to Warhammer 40k, but with Games Workshop gone, I'm not sure who is going to be all cease and desist here if they got upset about it. I at least might have chosen a different visual style. I understand why they chose this cartoony style that works really well for top-down RTS type games. I mean, the other one I played way back then was Command & Conquer Red Alert 2, which was only moderately more realistic, and by moderately I mean the little people were so tiny you couldn't really tell if they were realistic or not. Now, the marketing is risky in another way. They have announced this game in the beta stage and already have had to push back the release date a couple of times. Fortunately, it seems they don't have major investors pushing them to release it too early. Fingers crossed for a complete, relatively bug-free game that delivers on everything they've promised. The marketing for this game is relying heavily on appealing to the adventurer archetype players. Explore this huge map we're making and take out enemies strategically using our fog of war mechanic. With the standard visit cities, meet to make friends, make armor to customize your look, even if it doesn't do anything, choose your skill trees, that sort of thing. They're saying there will be story quests driven by NPCs you're building relationships with as you talk to them. And lore, and dungeons and big raid bosses because got to appeal to those players who like to run around and deal big damage. This type of marketing is geared pretty much towards the established players of the RTS or MMORPG game types. The website and trailers are telling us this game is An MMORPG with fog of war and a seamless open world. Thanks to the top-down camera and fog of war, you'll want to discover every nook and cranny. Corepunk offers a variety of professions, battlegrounds, challenging monsters, and unique camps, guilds, farms, quests, and profound lore. Direct from site. Then the only other page they have is about the heroes, and their news is all about where the game is in development and their shiny environments and mechanics. Okay, this reads like someone who is really new to publishing or marketing and doesn't know how to summarize their book. Instead of capturing our attention with the profound lore and unique dark fantasy meets cyberpunk setting, showing it to us, they are telling us, this book is really cool and you need to read it because it has X, Y, and Z in it. And you love this genre, you love X, Y, and Z. They are selling me a game genre. They aren't even selling me the setting genre on this website. So they aren't even going, our game is dark cyberpunk fantasy about, which is the next thing on the list of bad book blurbs. This doesn't appeal to players who want to try your game as the first game they ever will play. They've had articles going up on their website from 2019. The first Meet the Artificial Core Team article doesn't actually introduce you to anyone on the team. It just says, we're in the Netherlands and the Ukraine. Not helpful. Every other article is geared towards super hardcore players who like following the development of games or investors. Here's what we accomplished, and this is what is coming up. It's almost 2 years later since they started this website. They have a forum and a FAQ, and yet no team page for the devs. If they have anyone on the writing or narrative design team, which because I don't have a team roster on the site, and I'm not about to go jump through hoops in LinkedIn to go looking, I don't know if they do it all. They should know by now what the conflicts and stakes of their story are and be able to summarize them in an exciting way for players. If you have story and lore in your game, and you're telling us you have story and lore in your game with all these cool factions and guilds and professions, then you have to convey to us in a punchy way why we're going on this adventure. This is how you will get the new players to try your game, the ones who have never played a game before. You can't rely on the old players. You don't want to rely on the old players. The old players of RTS and MMORPGs are going to be really picky. You want to get the new players of games who are not so picky and will give you as much grace as they can and a lot of buzz as they start forming a community around your game and your game's lore. Those are your long-term lifer players who are either going to give you a lot of free publicity or give you a lot of money over time. Publicity is priceless. The game has a really cool setting and really cool looking player character options. Visually, I'm excited. The next thing you have to do is connect to my emotions and show me the story to get me hooked into your world, so I will be eager to give you my money and play in Warcraft and StarCraft had a baby. Because I love both Warcraft and StarCraft. Relying on nostalgia and relying on game mechanics alone is risky business. And the official gameplay trailer came out a year ago. We've been hanging for a year, not knowing exactly what the game name means. The Corepunk logo is fine. It's got a very grunge type of look to it, and they've turned the O into a symbol they've been using on their website and their news. It's a private rank military symbol chevron over the O. I'm just not sure what the name is supposed to be about. Punk is one of those words that is losing meaning in our popular culture, along with core. I've seen both of these words appended to random words so much they've been reduced to nothing. I mean, cyberpunk, steampunk, dieselpunk, solarpunk, dragonpunk, and then core has been cottage core and goblin core and bread core and armor core and pirate core. You take this word core and you add it to punk. I have no idea what it means. because punk is either rebellion against the establishment as used by the original punks, or it has become to an extent this world's technology revolves around steam, or diesel, or solar green energies, or magic, like in Magic Punk. Cyberpunk had these super advanced sci-fi technologies and the rebellion aspect of pushback against the government and corporations who own these technologies, and thus you and your emotions are now behind a paywall. And core has become this, my life revolves around a particular lifestyle or look, like making bread for breadcore, or I want to dress like a pirate for pirate core, or I love the look of cottages for cottage core. While core has been used in nuclear energy to talk about the core of the radioactive substance, or sometimes it's used in magic to talk about the magical core of a person, this wellspring of energy, like the core of the Earth is a hot ball of plasma, the heroes in Corepunk aren't all having energy nodes or power cores like Iron Man on their person. Due to Warcraft, which had a reason for the name, I feel even 20 years later it's become vogue, or is still vogue, to slam two words together and call it a good name. I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something. The name needs some context, even more than Bitcraft did. I really wanted to be excited for this game. I can't watch Let's Plays of it because it's going to give me motion sickness. Top down is one of those things I have to be 100% control of, and I would really hope for a third-person camera option. I'm not fond of first-person either in Let's Plays. I feel like they are putting in this huge amount of work with the characters and the environments, and then they're making it top down. It doesn't 100% make sense to me. I want to see that work and really immerse myself in that world. But their fog of war mechanic is really going to limit their camera work, at least the way it looks like they're using it. I don't know, give me an option to zoom in more and run around and attack things so I can see the hard work in the characters better. Maybe it would be an option for a future update after they finish the main game as envisioned. I really think in this day and age, the more camera options you give players, the broader amount of appeal the game has and can get more players, which I would think is a good thing because you want as many players as possible in an MMORPG. So the takeaway here is to be really aware of your marketing and how your marketing is going to look in the marketplace if you're making a game where the inspirations and graphical style are very similar to a game already out on the marketplace that may or may not be bigger than you with better lawyers and more money. And how important it is to market to more than one type or one generation of players. Vary up your marketing to bring in a broader audience to learn about your game. Otherwise, you put yourself in danger of not finding a big enough base of players to keep your game sustainable long term. I really think Corepunk is onto something here in fulfilling a particular game niche that's been abandoned since the third-person MMORPG and now the first-person shooter have taken over the huge money-making landscape of games. There is an audience out there waiting and wanting a new top-down RTS-style game. Corepunk could be that game. Their marketing, though, needs to attract new players who have never played games before by marketing the actual story and lore of the game rather than the list of basic game mechanics. And that's why I call the brand risky. And I hope this risk pays off. I mean, if they released a story trailer, they could get rid of half of my worries right there. And just vary their marketing images not to call back to any Blizzard franchises so blatantly. If you're taking this risk, have the courage to risk being your own thing. Be Corepunk, not Warcraft and Starcraft had a baby. Be proud of this really cool idea you've come up with, enough to market it so it can stand on its own away from the nostalgia of old school Activision Blizzard IP. You've got those players. Time to get new ones. I know this is short, but honestly, not a lot to go off here, even though they've had almost a year worth of time to market their game. Thanks for listening. Take care of yourselves. Bless. And as always, I'll see you in the next video.